Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about being a great developer without help. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Hi Frederick, I want to become a great developer, but I have no one to help me. How can I do this on my own? Well, you have me, don't you? Do you need more? Okay, let's just for the sake of argument assume that my little videos here are not enough to make you a super developer, which I very much doubt. Then I think that you should start by mastering one problem. Now, I have had a few questions similar to this sort of thing, and the notion that I'm going to give you is very similar to what I'm going to say now. One of the things that a lot of junior developers want is to go for maximum diversity as quickly as possible, because you measure how good you are as a software developer by how much you know, how many tools do you know, how many concepts do you know, which is a very natural thing, because if you really think about it, the range of things that you would have to know, because that's usually what we do, right? We trust that if I talk to you about a concept, you should know that concept. An example would be a doctor. You would be very nervous if you start talking to a doctor who doesn't seem to know the first thing about anything that is related to your illnesses, to your illness. Because you will trust a person who seems to always know what they're talking about. And in software, that is practically impossible. Well, it's not completely impossible, but it's really, really hard, because the diversity of things that you would have to know is so goddamn enormous, guys, that it's practically impossible. If you want to be a master software developer, you're gonna have to start accepting that it's going to take time. And that is something that is not fun to hear, because in the beginning of things you know so little, and there's so many people who seem to know everything, and everybody kind of knows what they're talking about, that it's hard to keep up, because you have all of these concepts that you don't really know what all the words mean, and you don't really know how all these things work, and it feels bad. So you try to just learn all of these things as quickly as possible, and you try to, because you want to know the lingo, you want to know how to talk to all of these expert and senior developers who kind of seem to know literally everything, and they use these big words and so forth. And what I'm trying to tell you is that that is part of it, and it's the thing that has been going on for everybody who knows all of the things that you want to know. The one thing that you should accept is that that is the way of all things. You start out knowing practically nothing, and given enough time, you will learn the things that are the most relevant. It's like learning a second language. You can't try to learn all of the language immediately. You have to start somewhere. First you start with structure of sentences, and then you start learning some set phrases maybe, or you start learning how to just trade information, ask set questions and get set answers to back, and so forth. And that's the thing that you should do and focus on if you're trying to master software development on your own. You need to get good at one thing first and really understand what that thing is and how it works before you move on to try to learn all the things. Because the thing is, guys, having a skin deep understanding of like 100 different concepts, that doesn't mean shit. If you go to, guys, if you go to Wikipedia, you can look up almost every single term anybody ever has used in IT, and yeah, you will know what the description of that thing is, but that's not going to help you in your comprehension of how to solve problems and have that deep understanding regarding the topic. And that's the thing I want you to understand. That is the thing that you should go for. It's better for you in the beginning to understand that start by mastering one thing. And even if that thing is something as simple as, okay, I want to really get good at CSS. Okay, what is CSS? How do I use it? What are the different ways that I can use CSS? Start there and really understand how CSS works. Once you feel like, yeah, I can kind of style my pages with HTML and all of this sort of stuff, then you have kind of checked that box, if that makes sense. And then you can say, all right, now I want to learn how to build a web application. All right, how do I get a web application up and running? And then start creating these challenges for yourself. And as you master each of these challenges, they usually start off really small. It can be as simple as I'm going to finish this course on JavaScript, or I'm going to finish this course in some programming language, right? And really get good at mastering that little piece. And then you take the next piece and you start, okay, now I'm going to try to build something meaningful with the skills that I have learned so that I can solidify my understanding. Don't try to just jump from one thing to the other without really mastering one thing first. Because if you do that, all that you're going to do is that you're going to spread yourself too thin, and you're not going to be able to learn all those things. The thing that I can give you that probably should help you get into the right headspace around this is that the more things that you truly master, like as I like to call them, the core concepts of software development, the easier it will be for you to adopt the next thing. You might think that just because it took you, I don't know, a year or two to master your first programming language, whatever, right? That it's going to be the same thing for everything you want to learn. No. That's not how it works. If you take the time to learn your first programming language really, really well, so you can really build things within it, and that takes a while, then the next one is going to take 2 weeks. Even if the first one took 2 years. I promise you that's going to happen. The reason is because the concepts that you will learn from the first language, because you're starting completely fresh, almost all of those concepts will transfer into the next thing. And the same thing goes for if you're going to do like operations work or databases or whatever. If you learn one database, like a relational database, really, really well, even if it takes you a while to learn that thing, the concepts in that thing are practically the same in all the other ones, which means that instead of jumping to 10 different ones and just confusing yourself, just start with one. And when you really know that, I promise you, the second you need to learn the next one, it's going to go in a fraction of the time it took to learn the first one. It's still going to be a lot of new things, but it's going to go faster. And then when you've learned, and then you master the second one, and now the third one is going to be a fraction of the time it took again, like, because you're maturing your understanding of the concepts behind the tech that you are using, as opposed to just trying to learn a specific tool. And that is the thing that is going to make you a really, really great software developer. And you're going to, like, your learning pattern is going to be exponential, because the more if you take your time to really get good at one or two things to start off with, then the next thing you're going to learn, because it's so similar to the thing that you've already learned, like these concepts, they transfer in many cases. It's going to take you a fraction of the time to learn all the things. I can give you an example. A lot of the languages that I have on my CV, like the first language I learned was, I think, PHP or something like that. Yeah, I can't remember now, but and that took like tons and tons of time. I remember that we took this course on C back in the day for me, and the course on C was 2 months, and then we had 2 weeks to learn PHP and build a website, and we passed. Like my people, like I've managed to do it. My classmates managed to do it, because the investment we had made in learning C, which was really big, and learn all the base concepts, they transferred immediately, practically, to PHP. It wasn't a perfect transition, but it was so similar. It was like speaking languages that were very similar, so we could immediately adopt it. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you don't have anybody to help you and you want to be a great software developer, start creating these tiny challenges for yourself. Start by saying, all right, I want to build something, and I'm going to start with the first simplest thing that I can build. Example, I want to know how to build websites. All right, let's start by creating a static HTML file with some CSS and just see how that goes. Just let's do that and practice that until you can do that without feeling that you don't really know what's going on. Yeah, you can pretty much do this. It's not that interesting to do it anymore, because yeah, you create your file, add your tags, add some data to the thing, create some styles, and style the thing the way you want. All right, That's step number 1. Cool, checked that box. Let's go to the next thing now. Now I'm going to create a REST API, or I'm going to create a web server or something like that. And then you start working on that thing. Do that process and continue that process. Solidify each step as you go along, and don't try to be too broad to start off with, because you're just going to confuse yourself. And I promise you, you will master all these different tools in time, but don't try to get everything on the first go. You have to let some things take a little bit of time. So make sure that you create challenges for yourself, learn each step as you go along, and I promise you, the first time it takes a lot of time to learn something, the second time you're going to do it in a fraction of the time, because most of what you already learned, if you really understood it, is going to transfer into the next thing. Have a great day.